Welcome back to JDM Legends, presented by Turn 14 Distribution, where today I build this beautiful beast. If you guys didn't tune into last episode, then you missed us tear this RB down and install a whole bunch of goodies like some Tomei cams. We did all OEM timing with a Tomei timing belt, some cam gears. We also put a baffle in. We did a upgraded oil pump. So this engine is now ready for reassembly. We are gonna start off with a little bit of show and tell here, and arguably one of the sexiest pieces that is gonna go onto this engine. As you can see here, we have ourselves the old intake manifold and throttle bodies off of the RB. And you can see it is nasty, coated, old gaskets, rusty bolts, all of this. And truth be told, originally when I looked at this, I thought this would be perfect for us to vapor blast. But then I came across Remade in USA, and Ian, the guy over there, is beyond cool. And he's a true car enthusiast that offers this service, which is a full OEM, I would even call it an OEM plus restoration, to better than OEM quality restoration of the entire manifold and throttle body setup. It is a stunning work of art, guys. Honestly, like seeing the quality and craftsmanship that goes into all of this, it is beyond amazing. Like even all of these springs, which, you know, I don't even know where Ian gets these, but these springs are all factory fresh. Everything has been zinc coated. It looks so good, so good. I'm like so pumped to have this go on this engine because it's going to give it that brand new look. The lengths that Ian goes to recreate OEM perfection, as you can see, like even he uses the red marks here, which is like the paint marks, just like you would find on the factory setup over here. Like it's all brand new hoses. You can see he's recreated spots where he's, you know, even put like little dots like they would have done in the factory. All the hoses are brand new, like the lines, the clamps, like everything is just so stunning. You can see there's just a lot of time and effort that goes into this thing, and you know, it's rare to find somebody doing this kind of thing and doing it so well, and the attention to detail. So if you guys, you know, if you're into RBs or you're looking to have this done, or you've been on the fence on it, in my opinion, it is worth every penny. Not only that, like this is going to level up your build. It's gonna make it worth more money too. Like having something like this is such a statement on your vehicle, is it not? It's time to assemble this intake manifold, and you can see this is the first piece that goes on. And I am using an OEM Nissan gasket. Ian does supply these gaskets here, and man, so just so you guys have an idea of what goes into vapor honing this kind of stuff, you do have to take the throttle plate assemblies. Anything that's moving has to be taken apart. So he takes all this stuff apart. Look at it's almost like this weird rubberized.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier.
What do you call that? Sealant or
I don't know
what it is, but man, Ian, whatever you're doing here, man, this stuff looks incredible. There was something therapeutic about putting this together and just marveling at what I think is some very cool engineering. I know DP, you were saying it's convoluted, but you know what? Having ITBs like this, it's cool, man. And now putting it back together just makes it, I understand it more. I kind of see how everything works. It's certainly super baller. Next up here, what we need to do is, I guess, set our throttle linkage. So right now, when Ian does all this stuff, he doesn't obviously set this because he can't. So we need to figure out how to set the throttle linkage. And the first thing what we're gonna do is put a 1 mil piece of the feeler gauge right in between here. That's what the manual says. And I think now we start down here with number 2, and then it's probably gonna be hard for you guys to see, but I need to lengthen this to the point that it is now touching the stopper. There's a stopper down here. And they just say to lengthen it until resistance is met. So there's resistance, so that
I should say to shorten it just before you start to see a little resistance.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
maybe like back it off a quarter turn.
Okay, so let's do that again. So I will watch this come down, and now, okay, yeah, right there. So no resistance. So with those dialed in, we do remove the feeler gauge, and now we check to make sure everything works good, and it is feeling smooth, man. It's now time to install our fuel injectors, and for that, I am going with a set of ID 1050Xs. I'll save you the technical spiel, but here's the thing. The injectors are so important to an engine running properly, and ID makes the best injectors, bar none. They do not modify the injectors. These are built in-house with Bosch Motor, in partnership with Bosch Motorsports, so you get a proper injector. And I think that's why the fueling is so far superior to anything else on the market. Much like the 2J, I am running a Radium fuel rail. This is actually a brand new offering from Radium for the RB26. And this is a bolt-on, so you could use your stock injectors. We obviously I've made the upgrade here, but this thing fits up, and you'll see fits up just like stock. Radium has this pretty brilliant adapter here that you can see now bolts up to the stock regulator, which is very, very nice. And now I can reuse almost all of the stock lines here. For a feed into the Radium fuel rail, we are using one of their new swivel banjo fittings. And these come in a variety of flavors. You can have this like this, barbed or AN. And this thing is amazing because once it's fully tightened into here, it swivels. Look at that. So it moves around, and you can kind of have it facing whichever way you want. And now really for me, what I want to do is run a line from here all the way back over to here. As you guys can see, this is the feed line. I could just delete this line if I wanted to and run a line from here straight to the actual like chassis side, but because this is so nicely done and OEM, I really want to keep this. Otherwise I would have to hack this whole setup up just to delete this line, and I don't want to do that. I bent this line down a bit. This was pointing up here, now it's pointing down, which I think gives it a cleaner look, and now I can just like snake it under the manifold and bring it all the way back around here and hook it up to the feed there. And like I said, look at that. Just having that swivel factor on that Radium fitting is pretty amazing. And now we've got our OEM hookups right here, which I think is great, so I don't have to modify anything on the GTR, which is ultimately what I strive to do here, is make sure that everything is reversible. So you do have a 1/8 NPT fitting in this fuel rail, and I am going to use a link sensor for fuel pressure, and that's pretty critical. I guess I can't screw this in. I gotta put this in first. But in order to make sure that, you know, if we do have a fuel issue, the ECU shuts it down, having one of these sensors is very critical. It is a little, you know, if this was underneath, that'd be amazing, but it's not. So
I like it on top. It gives it a high-tech vibe.
Does it? Does it? Okay, well that's good, because I think we're gonna have to leave it this way. We can't have it pointing this way because it hits our breather here. So we're gonna have to go this way. And truth be told, like once it's mounted in there, it's gonna look pretty clean. Look at that, right? That's not a big deal. We've already got a modified fuel rail, so I think I was overthinking it. In the RB26 world of bolt-on twin turbo upgrades, very few of the turbochargers on the market right now include the latest and greatest technology. And that's why I have chosen a set of Garrett Motion GTX 2860R turbos. These are distributed through ATP Turbo. And as I mentioned, my big thing is I wanted a new advanced turbo. A lot of the turbos on the market are journal bearing or thrust bearing. So I was hoping to get the ball bearing set up, and as you can see, these are exactly that. And I'm hoping they're gonna bring a lot of response. These are 900 horsepower capable turbos. So they do have quite a threshold for making a lot of power. I also had all the dump pipes or the outlet pipes and the manifolds Cerakoted. So I think they're gonna look really good once we start bolting this stuff together. And I had to spend about $250 on studs and nuts and bolts at Nissan because these don't come with them, and obviously as they wouldn't. And the factory ones, I'm not gonna sit here and try to like remove these studs out of the back of the housings and all that. It just isn't worth it. But man, it's kind of an added cost that you don't really add into your budget usually, and you don't expect to be like that kind of money. But you know what? It needed to be done. So now I think it is time we start piecing all of this together. The turbos came together with very, very little fuss. You guys may have noticed that the factory outlet has studs, so the turbine housing has studs that bolt the outlet on, and I went with bolts with these Nordlock washers just to secure them, because I noticed, if you guys recall, when I was taking everything apart, the studs had backed themselves out, and that is a very, very common issue here for them to back out. So I used bolts instead of that. I think it's probably the better way to go. And man, everything is looking so nice and fresh. I can't wait to start putting this stuff on. You may also notice that the camera is on a tripod. Dave is not here, and I think he got so much RB envy that he was like, I can't come into work today. The RB is such a far superior power plant, and now that I've noticed all the cool stuff that you're doing. Or he's at home babysitting his kids because it is a PA day. So one of those two things. But regardless, right now we're gonna start bolting these onto the engine block. The gasket that Nissan supplies for the exhaust manifold to the head, man, I know the 2J1 is metal, multi-layer. The SR21s you can get that are also metal, and yet this one, the RB one, is a composite one. I'm sure it does the job, I just don't love it. It doesn't inspire confidence per se, but that's what we're going with because I don't have anything else. Let's see if it'll drop right into place here. Come on, come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, I think I've got the wrong one. Yes, I do. Come on, get it on the studs, get it on the studs. There we are. Okay, there we go. Ah, it's almost on though. I don't want to let go. No, it's not on. Dang. If I come in with the two-finger approach here. Oh, this might work. It's toying with me. It's like there, but I can't. There it goes, okay. Done. There we go. Beep, 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 beep. Twin turbo assembly is looking fantastic. It does look very refreshed. Quick note, all of these heat shields Dave did use the vapor honer for, and they came out looking incredible. They started off looking something like this. And we were gonna do these, except you can see they are cracked and failing in a couple spots. So thankfully, I jumped onto Terra Firma's site. They are a GTR expert as well. They sell a ton of parts, and they had a couple of these in stock. They weren't grossly expensive. I think they were like 75 bucks each, and I ordered them up, and I think it's well worth it trying to go for that nice new OEM look here. The peculiar thing is they're all marked up. Look at this, DP, with like blue markers. So I don't know, should I like...
Is that a fact? I guess it has to be a factory.
It has to be a factory thing. What do you think? Should I get rid of those marks? Should we run some acetone through them, or do we leave them? I think that looks much cleaner without those blue marks everywhere. So we do have a new shiny manifold covers there, and I certainly do like the OEM-ness of everything. This is the OEM silver that is on the paint color on the GTR, and I think it's gonna look really cool. We've never done this before, and I'm keen to see how it's gonna look. I've seen it on a bunch of other GTRs. I just find the idea of like the valve cover being one color really suits the RB nicely, and I think it's gonna look really good. Quick note, you do not see those PRP baffles on here, and that is because they actually reached out to me and said, hey, we're gonna send you a new set. We saw that the other set wasn't up to snuff, so thank you PRP for going the extra mile to fix that. So let's bolt all this together and then we'll show you what this looks like. DP, what do you think?
Looking good, man.
This is looking fresh. Wow, Luke at 242 Customs did the paint work on this, and man, did a fantastic job. As you can see, everything is paint matched. It is looking really, really nice. No runs, anything like that. Like, wow, unbelievable. And you can see I am bolting on that NZ wiring trigger here, and I will put this in just so we can kind of get an idea of what this is all going to look like. But it's clean, man. It is so clean. Much like Dave's 2JZ, I am also installing a set of these Ignition Projects Hexapack coils. But unlike Dave, I did find the installation instructions and used them, and everything came together well. What do you got to say for yourself, DP?
I may have made a mistake there. I probably misplaced them. I'm sorry, Ignition Projects. I'm an idiot. I apologize.
Listen, mistakes happen. You made a mistake there, but they do come with the installation instructions, and they were a breeze to install. These use their R35 coils, which means they are a much higher output. And really with Ignition, it's much like wiring harnesses. I don't want to mess around with stuff that's old and crummy. Like really, these are these old R33 coil packs. You can see they're probably around since new. They're all chipped, and you know they're just dying to give you problems. The moment we got this car on the dyno with the factory coil packs, they would start missing, and then we'd be like, tearing our hair out. Making this upgrade is a smart, worthwhile investment. You just don't want to deal with that time, especially if you are in the dyno when this kind of comes up, and then you got to pay to take the car off and have it retuned. So I think it's certainly a worthwhile upgrade, and of course it looks really good. However, we are covering it up, so let me show you what this is going to look like now. Let me bolt this in, and then what we need to do is pull out the actual piece here. So I don't know if I showed this in a previous episode, but getting the old trim off of the valve cover here was a real big nightmare. And this is the R34 GTR one. Oh, that's looking pretty. Man, I love shiny new things. And this is my type of job. Look at this. This is just gonna bolt on like that. So should I just do this right now?
Actually, it's on a metal plate too, isn't it?
It is. And look at the amount of double-sided tape they use on here. Once this is on, it's pretty much not coming off. You're gonna wreck it. So I have like one shot to do this properly.
Right, don't get it crooked.
And well, I don't think you can, man. Like, look at this. Just goes in here like this.
It's crank pulley time, everyone, and this is the OE original pulley that came off this motor. And as you can see, like a typical OE style crank pulley, it has this ring of rubber in here, which if you look closely is cracking. And I don't know if these are also prone to failing the same way the 2JZ ones do, but the 2JZ ones can actually separate from where these are joined by this ring of rubber. What I do know though is that these are really only designed to dampen out NVH at cruising speeds. So they don't really do a very good job of damping out torsional vibrations throughout the RPM range. They're really just designed to do it at specific points in the RPM range. So on a motor like this, where we're gonna be pushing it hard and revving it to the moon, because that's what RBs do, you really wanna consider an upgrade like this. This is a fluid damper crank pulley, and it is the same as we used on the 2J, not the same model, but the same brand, because we really like the technology that these use. Inside of this pulley, there is a chamber that a ring is allowed to move inside of, and that chamber is full of like a silicone fluid, and the movement of that ring inside the fluid does an amazing job of dampening out torsional vibrations throughout the RPM range. So it not only does it at, let's say, cruising RPM like the stock one does, it'll do it from 1 RPM to 9,000 RPM, or whatever Pete's crazy enough to rev this thing to. So it's gonna offer protection to the bearings and the journals and dampen NVH in general for all types of driving. Apparently, having a better damper like this will help reduce the likelihood of shattering the oil pump gear. Mostly that seems to happen when guys are riding the rev limiter and it's banging around in there, and having this dampen out some of those vibrations will apparently help protect that oil pump gear. So there you go, PT. I'm adding reliability to your car. I really do want to see you succeed here, buddy. I just want to see you succeed a little bit less than I succeed with the Supra.
The 2JZ RB debate continues, but you know what? If there's one thing I know, 100% certainty, the RB wins for how pretty it is.
It is a pretty motor.
DP, there's like no arguing it. This thing, like look at how amazing this looks now with everything together, like everything refreshed. It's just, it's stunning. I almost don't want to put this in the car because it looks so good, but it's a motor. It needs to do its intended purpose, right?
Yeah, it is a thing of beauty, and on the upside, it'll probably come out in the near future anyway, PT, so you'll get to see it more on a stand, I'm sure.
You know, that is foreshadowing something. So in the previous episode, we did read a lot of your comments. There are some issues that you guys pointed out, and valid ones. However, we will address those in the next episode, so you're gonna have to hang on. Some of this engine may come back apart. So thank you guys for the comments. Keep them coming. We are by no means our RB or 2JZ experts, so all the comments we do appreciate. And thank you to Turn 14 for supporting this series. Without them, we would not be building these JDM legends. So if you like this video, certainly think about giving us a thumbs up and think about subscribing, as that certainly does help the algorithm and get our content out to the masses. All right, guys, that's a wrap. We will see you in the next one.